Hi, I'm Joe Scacciaferro, and this is On Location. All right, so today I have a very cool guest, somebody I've been trying to get on for a while. I've known him forever, and currently he's the vice president of broadcast operations at the Middle Eastern Broadcast Network, which is part of the U.S. Agency of Global Media, which is a sister to the Voice of America. Long ass title. But I can't wait to, he's got so much, there's so many different aspects of my guest. So I'm going to jump right into it. Welcome, Mike Marno.
Hey, Joe, how are you? It's good to be with you.
Cool. Yeah, good. We tried this once and we ran into some problems, so now we're going to do it again. Mike, first, that's a long title that I just used as an introduction. Give me a very brief understanding of what that gig is currently and what it entailed.
The title as of today, since last we spoke, actually, is Chief Technology Officer. MBN, Middle Eastern Broadcasting Networks, is a global 24/7 live news organization, which is part of the USAGM, as you mentioned earlier. We basically do live news as a wholly Arabic-speaking network, and we provide an opposing viewpoint to what is typically in the Middle East, which is our target region, the MENA region, Middle East and North Africa, actually. And we also are a bit of a mouthpiece for American policy, such that we can give the counterpoint for what American policy actually is within the region. We have about nine satellite locations, and we're headquartered in Springfield, Virginia, actually. As well as doing news gathering in roughly more than 30 countries at present.
That is huge. And I'm snickering because I know where you come from. And I know a lot of the evolution. And for you to be where you are and carry that title with all those responsibilities is nothing short of amazing to me. But before that, what are give me your responsibilities of what you do under the guise of all of what it is, and congratulations on your new title.
Thank you. As with any chief technology officer, I'm responsible for the vision, implementation, and functionality of all technical systems worldwide. I'm also still, as you mentioned earlier, responsible for broadcast operations worldwide. So all IT, both corporate and media, all operations on the media side and the broadcast side, our radio brand, and basically anything else we do worldwide from a technology and or a broadcast standpoint is under my realm. My organization that reports up to me is about a third of the entire organization at present. So it's wide reaching and really is responsible for everything under the hood to do fulfillment and get us on the air and keep our processes and support remote work, virtual desktop infrastructure, all that kind of stuff that allows us to do what we do globally, both from a corporate perspective and a broadcast perspective.
Okay, I'm going to add to that. Before I even get into the path from zero to where you are now, you also are currently, you're at your restaurant, right? You just launched a restaurant in Georgia, and you also have a website that just give us a brief understanding of those two things, because in the real world, those are just components of an entire person. Each one of those is a separate person, but you've decided to do all of these things at the same time. So talk about those two, the additions.
So the corporate evolution being what it is, I started from, sorry, there's a train going by. It is Georgia after all. So the corporate evolution being what it is has been in excess of a 35-year career now. And let me know if I need to wait till it actually
that's
passes.
fine.
But,
It's not bothering us.
It's organic that way, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I'm at the end and the culmination of a 35 plus year career, and I have a global presence as a person within the industry and the verticals that I'm in. So I'm kind of ready to go into the sunset part of my life and not, which is going to be funny because as I say, I want a better work-life balance. I turn around and I buy a restaurant as the next portion of my life. So I've made a lot of organizations very successful over the years, and it's my turn to do it for me now. So that's the idea of the restaurant. The restaurant, beyond being a restaurant, it's a restaurant, it's a bar, it's also a hookah lounge, and it's also a music venue. My brother, Joe Marno, who's been in this business as long as you and I have been, and also has very far-reaching tentacles. We're going to leverage all of his contacts and my contacts to create a destination music venue south of Atlanta. The spot that I have actually acquired came as a turnkey functioning restaurant event space, and is in fact, if you're familiar with the show Walking Dead, the actual space has been featured in The Walking Dead, and some of the writing on the brick wall that lives outside on the edifice is actually part of the title sequence. Sonoya, Noonan, and Grantville are the three towns that are kind of the backdrop for The Walking Dead. And actually the color purple, the folks that produced that actually used the lawn space, which holds about 1,700 people here, as a backdrop for the movie The Color People too. So at some point when that comes out, you'll see elements of the space. So it's a nice tourist attraction. Grantville itself is trying to revitalize, so it was an excellent opportunity. And we're hoping we can, through all of our skill sets and all of our contacts, can turn it into a true destination space and music venue that kind of is one of those niche spots that artists like to come to.
Nice. Okay, well, you gave me a great segue. So let's go back to when we first met. I was heavily still in the music industry, almost exclusively, not almost. But I was on the technical side of most of what we were doing, and we crossed paths somewhere in there, because you also mentioned your brother, and when you said he's in the same industry, he's not in the Middle Eastern broadcast industry. He's always been on the recording side in the music industry at the bigs. So how does someone young from East Orange, New Jersey, end up where you are now, and having your trajectory went through Triple S and then kind of just exploded on up? And I watched you move from the music into broadcast, but at a kind of a lower level. And then I lost track. And the next thing I know, you were the guru of broadcast satellite all over the world. So give me some of those steps, that how you were able to, and your mindset that allowed you to kind of see that movement.
Yeah, well, the mindset is easy, and something, frankly, that I've learned from you, from watching you all these years. When you have a focused mindset and you decide on a goal, and you also have the passion for that goal, the only thing left for you to do in order to manifest is basically do the work. And you understand that it's a journey and not a destination, and it's a long journey, And with patience, persistence, and focus, you just keep going and going and going, and you work towards your goal until it eventually gets realized. And obviously, there's people skills and a lot of other social things to you need to make happen to get there. But it's really all about honoring your craft, immersing yourself in the craft, and then being willing to do the work without distraction, in my view.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That was brilliant. I'm going to steal every one of those words and I'm going to put them out as my own. Oh, but yeah, that you say it like it's a easy. That's just all you got to do is just do that. There's some very difficult moments in doing that. It's not that easy to kind of just have a direction, have a journey, kind of follow it through. You're going to trip and fall and trip and get knocked around. How did you get back up? Give me that. There's got to be a lot of fight in you to believe that you can get back up after you get kicked around.
Well, that's true, and I'm going to give you a quote from Rocky Balboa, actually, strangely enough. There was something Rocky said in one of the later movies where he was the old aging champion, and something that he had learned in life, which I have taken to heart. And then there's a bit longer of a conversation there. But what Rocky said in that movie was, it's not about how hard you get hit. It's about how hard you get hit and keep moving forward. And if you think about it, if you get hit, all you got to do is get up and keep moving forward. And what I've heard people say to me throughout my career and through life is that, I don't want to do that because I'm afraid of failure. And I would just reframe that in a different lens and said, what you're really afraid of is failure. Is success. Failure is easy, and it doesn't take a lot of effort to fail. What really takes a lot of effort is success, because it requires effort and responsibility and skin in the game. And I think that's really what frightens people away from, pulling up their boots and rolling up their sleeves and getting it done, basically.
Where did you derive that motivation? Where did that come from? Again, I've known you a long time, and you've transitioned from zero, literally zero, to where you are. What was that initial motivation? Was this your target?
No, it wasn't really my target. And to be honest with you, that in movie speak is a massive character arc for me. In the beginning, it was to emulate people that I respected. Transitioning from that to being in the industry and starting and learning in the number one market, the number one DMA in the country, was a difficult process in and of itself, because of the competition and because of the tolerance that people lack, I should say, of skill sets when you're in a top 10 market, as an example. But as anybody, I should say, goes through their career, there's always people that are detractors, people that hate on you, basically. And that became anger, which drove me for a very, very long time, honestly, to just overcome people who didn't have my best interests at heart, to the point where you realize, from a Buddhist perspective, if I might digress a little bit, you realize what your concept of identity and abundance is. And for me, it was a turning point where I realized that I could be okay with myself, regardless of other people's opinions, and I could be cool with me and who I was, and be confident in myself, even with a modest lifestyle. And once you make that realization, it becomes an easy leap to have different motivations for doing things with different outcomes, because you're in a different emotional place. So it really just becomes effortless when you get yourself into the mindset of you're doing it for yourself because of what makes sense for you and because what is fulfilling, rather than from a competitive place that you feel needs to lead you to the trappings of what society conditions you to want and believe, basically. At least for me.
That's a lot, and that's a unique. It's not unique in action. It's unique in the spoken word in our industry. You get into other worlds and other. I'm going to say spiritual moments and philosophical people. Those you'll hear a lot of that speak. But in our industry, which is a very cutthroat, very hard, slamming place, to have that strength of character to be able to do that it is pretty amazing. So give me the steps when you. Again, we crossed paths at Triple S when you were just developing your technical interests. And then we worked together very briefly on a video project with a mutual friend of ours. And then there was always, your brother's situation that got you into the music recording side of it. Take me back to those days and what you were thinking you were going to do and how you were trying to make your mark.
Again, another massive character arc. Originally, I had no idea what I wanted to do, although I didn't realize it at the time. And I was doing what I was doing to emulate other people. And when I got to the point where I had some realization, which was actually at a few years later, I worked for a news agency way back in the day called Worldwide Television News. It was actually the precursor to Associated Press's television news, APTN. And it was partially owned by Cap Cities ABC at the time and ITN, which is a British company. I worked there for about 8 years, and after a while, it became a wholly owned subsidiaries of Cap Cities ABC, and then subsequently Disney when Disney bought Cap Cities. But I learned a lot about the process of what it takes to take an empty room and turn it into a functioning facility. And it was, and how I got that job actually is another interesting story. Excuse me. I had seen an advertisement on a wall. It was just a little postcard at school. Actually, shortly after I left Triple S, I was finishing out my my 4-year degree, and there was just an advertisement on a wall on a postcard that said news agency was looking for engineers. So I said, I'm kind of in that space, and let me go figure out what this is all about. So I went and interviewed the guy, and he didn't want to hire me. And I decided, for whatever reason at that moment, that you know what, I'm not taking no for an answer, and I'm just going to pester the shit out of this guy, really, excuse the language, until he hired me. So I just kept calling him and calling him and calling him. And he finally said, all right, come on in and I'll give you a job. If you can do the job that I give you, then I'll hire you. And what he did was he came in with a 3/4 machine. It was a Sony at the time. I think the 850, I forget. It's been a long time. But anyway, he said, take this machine apart and put it back together. And if it works, I'll hire you. So he came in and he dropped it on there. And I was thinking to myself, wow, how am I going to do this? I said, whatever I do, I'm not going to give up, basically. So I took it apart. And I actually did successfully put it back together. It took me 3.5 days. But after 3.5 days of sitting at the bench, disassembling and reassembling this 3/4 inch machine, you put a tape in it, it recorded, it played back, and it worked. And that was the beginning of that arc to just, keep going and do what you have to do and immerse yourself in the craft that I mentioned earlier. And by the time we were done, we started at 68th and Broadway. It was about maybe a half a floor plate, 2,500 square feet in the building that we were at the time. I built that place as I learned how to design and how broadcast systems works and the component and how they worked. from editing to ingest to acquisition to distribution to the editorial process. I basically built that place into half of the building. We ended up on five separate floors in that particular building, 5 or 6. Forgive me if I misquote again. It's been about 30 years. But at any rate, I worked my way up from a bench technician who got a job by refusing to quit, trying to figure out how to put a tape machine back together, to being effectively the director of operations and engineering for this hemisphere. Worldwide Television News obviously was a global agency at the time, and we did business and news gathering in about 128 countries way back when.
How terrifying! I'm going to stop you. I'm going to stop you because there's so much big stuff in the middle of this. How terrifying was it? At 2 stages that I heard. One is the 3/4 build and tear down and build. And not really knowing that. It's not like you've done that 100 times. And then the second terrifying stage is when that position evolved or your opportunity evolved, you were constantly, if I'm wrong, stop me, but you're constantly over your head. And then you have to arise to that position. And then you go over your head again. And then you have to rise to that position. Well, that moment in this deep water, how terrifying is it to live in there?
It's completely terrifying, frankly. And what I've done a lot of times in my life, and whether it's to my credit or not, I've jumped off the cliff many, many times. And initially, when you're careening down towards the ravine that's at the bottom of the cliff, you're hoping that there's water down there to catch you, so you don't end up like Wile E. Coyote with the broken sign, walking like an accordion, basically. The first time that's very difficult because you have to take a deep breath and you have to relax for a second, observe your surroundings, and just decide, I'm not going to panic. I'm going to think it through, and I'm going to do what I need to do to figure it out. And that failure, failure wasn't really an option. Failure in my life has become basically, professional and human university, to be honest with you, because I'll take you back to the Buddhist perspective and the concepts of yin and yang. You can't know one without the other, and you can't develop your respect for one without the other.
Nice.
So, once I was successful that first time, I understood that life is basically a roller coaster, and there's that anticipation as you're going up that first lift, and you make it over the top. And once you get past that first dip where you're excited, exhilarated, afraid, and your hands are turning red because you're holding on. Once you hit the bottom and you start going into the rest of the loops, it's all gravy after that. And then you focus on the goal, and you focus on yourself, so that you get up and you keep moving forward, and you don't have to be limited, and most people are limited by what's in their own brain rather than what the world is presenting them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And I agree with literally every step of that way that you just went through. The Wile E. Coyote, great analogy, love it to death. My affection for animation and cartoons, so that was key for me. Let me ask you another leading question: is networks? You mentioned several times you followed somebody else's lead, or you took your drive from something they were doing and kind of mimicked it until you developed your own inertia. How important is the human networking for your career? Developing those relationships and being able to rely on the real people and not the ones that are just going to give you some bullshit story.
Uh, it's vitally important, but there's nuances just like anything else with that. You can be angry and allow your anger to be the fuel for your motivation, and you can be successful by not being a nice and kind person and an angry person. But at the end of the day, you do more damage to yourself, both in a social setting, a professional personal relationship setting, as well as a physical setting to yourself. It twists you up into a knot, basically, and that's different degrees and different levels from everybody. But once for me anyway, I realized that I didn't really need to spend my life proving my worth to everyone else. And obviously that has a lot to do with self-esteem. And I don't think I'm unique, certainly. And no matter how successful somebody is, there's some level of self-esteem issue, depending on how one judges themselves. So that really never has gone away. But you realize that the key to managing any experience, and whether you has to do with listening, and whether you listen from a visceral modality, meaning pay attention to what you see, or you listen from an oral perspective, meaning listen to what you hear. If you listen to understand rather than listening to respond, it takes you a long way and allows you to divorce yourself from the emotional response and to be empathic about what somebody else is trying to relate to you, so you can not take people personally. And in that way, you listen to understand, and your universe just begins to grow because you hear things rather than waiting for the words to finish so you can respond to them.
Wow. You're a deep son of a gun, boy.
Well, I had to be deep because I'm only like 5 feet tall, man. I figured something has to be lengthy. But anyway,
how much? Because another thing I get asked all the time is, from parents, from how much from your family's support, how much was there that drove you and your brother, that gave you the framework for undertaking and becoming the two? I mean, your brother's very successful also in his field. Does that come from the home, or does that come from the world around you?
I'd say both, and everybody's different, so that will change. But at the end of the day, there's a root requirement, and that is you as a person have to believe in yourself. You won't reach any level of success until you stop worrying about rules that other people impart on you, and you'll never be able to think out of the box. So it's to some degree your life experiences. However, if you only live your life by past life experiences, then you're living your life in the rear view mirror. The realization that, life, in order to grow, what happened yesterday is far less important than what happens now or in the next moment. So life is probably 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond to it.
I can't even follow up with these questions. I mean, they're just statements. They're such profound statements. How much have you noticed the generation that's coming up? How much give back do you feel, or do you feel at all, required to share with them?
For me, particularly, if you haven't noticed, I've been studying Taoism and Buddhism for a while now, and that's not to say I'm either. I'm still kind of agnostic, if you will, and there is definitely a spiritual plane, but what I believe in terms of, how that relates to what happens after you close your eyes is a much more lengthy conversation. But now I forgot completely where I was going there. What was the
We're
question?
talking about giving back. Really, that was the summary.
Giving back. There you go. So those two things have led me to an understanding for myself and within myself that there's really no reason to be fearful, and you can live your life with love and compassion out front, and the rewards will make themselves known to you. So in that respect, you do what you do because it's right, not because somebody told you what to do, and you share those experiences because everything is connected. And in order for, if you believe in the Bible, given you shall receive, or whether you believe in the universe and collective consciousness, in order for something to be circular and come back around to you, you have to present it. If you don't present anything but selfishness and closedness, if you're closed as a human being to everything around you, nothing circles back to you because you don't give anything. So give as much you can, as freely as you can, without worrying about what's in it for you. And the opportunities, at least for me, I can't speak for everybody, nor can I say if everybody even realizes that how many opportunities they actually have that they miss because they're tight and enclosed. There's balance. Yeah. And if you want something back, you have to offer something and not expect anything in return. And then the balance just becomes kind of the nature of existence. I don't want to get too ethereal, but that's kind of where I'm at.
I mean, we're deep in time here. And I honestly, when we sat down and thought this interview was going to happen, I did not expect it to go in this direction, but I am extremely thankful for everything you said. And the best, which is what I always lean into, a lot of people have a lot of philosophical, a lot of people have a lot of theories, a lot of people will share their wisdom, but in the end, the proof of concept is what you've achieved. And what you've been able to achieve is unbelievable. I mean, it's really, really a huge accomplishment. So that in itself is a testament to everything you believe in is true and functional because it's worked. As you've said a couple of times now, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for everybody, but I do believe that there's everything you said, dress it any way you want individually, but you have to, singularly believe in yourself and believe in some other, I believe in a higher power, and you have to answer to that and solely answer to that. But you have to have that inner belief. Even though everybody around you is saying something else and calling you everything from crazy to inexperienced to too young or too whatever, you have to fight through that because, as we all know, you're wrong until you're right. And then all of a sudden, everybody else is on that same right side. Mike, go ahead. I got to close, but I want to hear your final statement.
I was just going to say, it's to your point, what you're really talking about is faith. And if you take faith out of context of a belief system, faith is really just doing what's hard every day as if it were easy. And that really kind of culminates into encapsulating everything that we've been talking about today, in my view.
That is awesome. Hey, and if you want to buy Mike's book, The Proverbs According to Mike Marno, please reach out to me, and I'll make sure I exploit the hell out of that our interview and everything else Mike believes in. That's only a joke. I'm kidding. There is no book. Please don't start sending me requests. But Mike, maybe that's something you should be thinking about. Dude, a wonderful.
I will certainly do so.
You are, I look back at a lot of people that are very proud of their achievements and glad that I got to know them throughout. You are truly at the top of that list, and bravo to you, bro. You did a great job. I know it wasn't easy. You made it sound very casual as you did it, but I know it was a bear, and you made it work. So congratulations. Let's
Thank
stay
you, sir.
close, and I'll keep following you. And next time I'm in Georgia, I would desperately hit up your restaurant. Maybe you could even hire me to do some of the music side of it.
Well, that's certainly a conversation we can have. So.
All right, cuz. Appreciate you. Ciao.
All right. Later.